We're live. Welcome back to the LonelyFans podcast. Your host, Pack Photos, joined today by Aungielina, aka formerly Shibanjin.
There you go, yeah.
Rocking her awesome 7 shirt today because today we're going to be talking about The Boys season 3 so far. Just episodes 1 through 4. So if you're watching this live right now or catching the replay, yeah, we know episode 5's out, but we kind of want to give it like a week time before we talk about it. So
someone hasn't seen it yet.
Just trying to cover.
It's all right.
But yeah, so I didn't realize you mentioned it. It's been almost 2 years since we had anything from The Boys. I think there was like an animated series that came out.
Yes, Diabolical, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago that one's pretty brand new too. I've only seen a choice few episodes because I don't know how. I know some of them I think are like separate from like the series, but some of them tie into the series, so it's kind of hard to tell what's canon in the animated series. But yeah, I think it was like 2020 was season 2, and that was like a whole year has gone by.
Yeah,
I didn't even realize it.
I was like, damn, I remember I was working from home. It's like I didn't realize it's been that long.
Oh, I know. I was like, what happened to 2021? I just no memory. It's gone.
What happened in 2021 is we did get NECA's Homelander. So,
oh, that's true. There we go.
Yeah.
That was the one good thing about it being like produced by Amazon Prime. I knew Amazon was gonna shell out some merchandise for it. So.
Yeah. Speaking of Homelander, we're gonna get started with episode 1. How about that opening sequence? Your girl Clea, aka Charlize.
Yes, I was like, man, she's just gonna play the purple superheroes, I guess. You just sign on for both of them. It was really funny because I recently just read a comment by her that was like how she said it was like really unintentional that she appeared in like 2 separate superhero projects and she forgot she even appeared in 2 of them. And I was like, oh, Charlize. But yes, awesome. she did look pretty good.
I do like references like to like the Snyder cut. It was like release the Bork cut.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh.
That's something I've enjoyed. The reason I do like The Boys so much, I think, is because I just love that they're like a satire on like the superhero culture that we're like so affluent in today with like the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So like I was so there for them to do like a little homage to like the Snyder cut and staying kind of relevant and like the superhero culture right now.
Right. Like the fandom's passion, just like they wanted it, we got it, we released the Bork cut. And then it's funny when it comes to The Boys, like I have to like prepare myself to watch. It's not something I can just put on because it's been so long I forget like how graphic it is.
Yes, it's very intense.
And you had told me before I even watched episode 1, you're just like that first episode though.
Dude, like I don't get like a shock value doesn't really bother me. I think it's because like I'm a gender studies minor, so like I've read and seen everything. So like it takes a lot to phase me, but like I don't know, like I appreciate The Boys sometimes for going to like extreme lengths because you don't see it in a lot of superhero stuff that has to be like highly PG-13 because of the young audience. But there's like sometimes where I'm like, you're just pushing the envelope to push the envelope. And that scene, I was like, I'm open to a lot of things. Could have gone without. And I know it was like a tease at the whole like Ant-Man Thanos debate, but I was like, well, still, just because we say we want it, sometimes we really don't, and you don't need to give it to us.
Yeah, it could really have been done without. Because like when I saw that, I was like, oh.
And some of it was practical, like
when he sneezed.
They literally made like a giant size model for the dude to go into, and I saw like the behind the scenes photos. I was like, wow, that's where our hard money is going towards. Amazon just shooing out giant models for that. All right, thank you.
So I had seen like on the ACBA Facebook page, I had seen I think someone did like a photo. It was like a figure, just a regular figure with no top, and you're just like inside. I'm like, oh, okay, I can get where this is gonna go. I didn't realize it was the other. Like, oh my god. So when he was in there and he's just like, and he sneezes, I'm like, oh no.
I know. I was like, maybe it hits the male audience a little differently because like as a female, I was just like, well, that's terrible, but at least I can separate myself from the events that are happening right now.
Right. And then when Frenchie came in, I was just like, oh my god, no, I hope he's not next.
No, honestly, it did show how terrifying someone who could like shrink down to that sort of size would be if they were capable of doing that. That would be like nightmare fuel. I was like feeling Frenchie's fear.
Yeah, and now I'm like in fear of like Ant-Man and understand his true
That's really how he's gonna defeat Kang.
Yeah. I like how when he shrunk though, his voice changes, whereas Ant-Man, his voice stayed the same, but when he
Yeah.
shrunk, it's like squeaky.
Yes.
Yeah. And then like Butcher just like smeared him in cocaine.
Yeah, like the and I love like those little details. It's like how easy it would be to overdose if you're like of a macro size and you have just like all that cocaine you're being swirled in. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, fair.
Part of me was just like, you just crush him. And he's like, nah, just give him to Huey. So we see in episode 1 kind of like Butcher kind of holding back because he's trying to play within the rules now. Also because Huey's on the inside working with what's her name?
Oh, Victoria Newman.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. This one I kind of felt didn't last long. I kind of felt empathetic towards Homelander in the
Okay.
beginning because his numbers started to fall and decrease. But then in the same episode, I'm just like, oh wow, never mind.
These are the consequences of his own actions.
Yeah. But how did you feel when they were kind of like announcing the numbers, and for some reason Deep's numbers were like higher than his?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I mean, I will say I personally did not enjoy season 2. I had a lot of gripes with it, which I've made a video on my own account about all my issues with kind of season 2 and how they did a lot of stories. And one of the ones I was really disappointing in was it was kind of the cult church thing they were going with, because as we know with the end of season 2, it's not going to go anywhere. They like totally cut that line. Like for a while I was like, oh, is the church going to be like a pretty important power in this? And then it was like, no. So I was kind of surprised to see that like they're still kind of following like the Deep's character thread from that. So I mean, it made him relevant again, because I think in season 2 they didn't really know what to do with him, but they still wanted to keep him on as kind of like a main character. So I'm kind of glad that, as we see in later episodes, they're kind of bringing him back into like the 7, so like they'll refocus his character about like how it should be like with season 1.
Right. And I know what you're talking about because I remember when season 2 was ending and at the church, the guy grabs the fresco. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. He's going to be a pivotal role in the next
Yeah.
season. He just
And then
pops
he
his
just
head.
explodes, and I was like, well, there. I guess that wasn't important. We spent a whole season trying to care about it, and then it was just like, all right, well,
In
on
hindsight,
to
yeah,
the next
thinking
thing.
about it now, I'm just like, wow, that was a waste of a
Yeah.
character they could have
And
really used.
yeah, and that's like the one thing that like I think the boys has kind of been a little bad on in the series, because it was the same way at the very end of season 1 where we thought we were get like super terrorists because of like Homelander giving the V overseas, and we thought like the whole season 2 was going to be like, oh, there's going to be like this really big counter army that Vought is going to have to deal with, and then like episode 1 Noir just cleans it all up, and I was like, all right, well, I guess that wasn't a big important thing either.
Yeah.
So it's
I,
hard to wager what will be actually relevant.
right. I I can't stress again like the graphic nature of it. Like when Huey sees Victoria in the alley and she kills that dude's jaw, and I'm just like, oh my
Uh,
god.
And I think I remember reading a comment by the producers that said they ran out of fake blood by episode 3. I was like, I can see why.
So is her power? Because I'm trying to figure it out. Because like, can she just like pop any part of your body, or?
Yeah, I think the requirement, I think it's almost like a Medusa thing where she has to look at you. I think she has
Mhm.
to physically see what part of your body she wants to explode, because when the guy was fighting her, you could see him trying to like gorge her eyes out. Basically, he was trying to like get her eyes, and
Yeah.
it showed when she like forced his hands away. She blew up his hand because she was able to look at it. So I think her ability is that any body part she sees, she could explode. And I guess she just goes with the head because, as Thor was reminded of,
Oh,
that's going to get the job done.
should have gone for the head.
Should have gone for the head.
Did you see in episode 1 though that Billy Butcher and Homelander kind of come to an agreement to try
Hmm.
and take down Vought?
Yes.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't, maybe it was to take down Vought. I think it's mostly like they want to have like an old fashioned war with just each other. They just want to have no restrictions to go after each other, which I'm excited for.
Yeah. I think for for the first episode, it reminded me again that I was watching The Boys. To be honest with you.
Yes, they did a good job at kind of like catching up where everyone was, because they show Huey working with the like the Bureau of superhuman affairs or whatever it is. And
Mhm.
then, Butcher and Frenchie and Kamiko kind of being, I guess, like conscripted. They're not really a part of it officially, I don't think, but they like are kind of like they work for them a little bit,
Yeah.
contracted. Then we see that, Starlight's doing really well in the 7 because she got her really high ratings. Homelander suffering a bit, the whole argument of who's going to be in the 7. MM kind of being out of it because he wants to be a father to his daughter more. So I thought it was a good introductory episode of showing, like, okay, this is where everyone's at right now. Some are doing good, some are a little worse for wear, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Oh man, I was thinking about like uh the daughter's father, the stepfather, how he's like
Yeah.
very like
Which
you
I'm
know,
keeping my eye on him. He's very suspicious. He's very suspect,
he looks like a
especially.
certain type of people. Yeah.
Especially episode 2, I think, is when Homelander makes his really big speech and he's like really into it. And I'm like, oh,
He's
as we
one of
saw,
us.
as we see with all the Stormfront super fans, nothing good comes from being a little too into some of these superhero speeches.
Yeah. Are you talking about in episode 2?
hmm
Yeah. I liked in episode 2, I'm trying to remember. She was part of the old school team, but like she just
Payback.
killed. Yeah, she like. Sorry, y'all have to forgive me too if like my names are off here, but she killed that Homelander mascot in front of the kids. I was
Oh
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's insane. Yeah,
Oh,
blood
what
every.
is she? The Crimson Countess or whatever is her name, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah. Yeah, which I like it because I didn't even connect with me right away that it was like a person in a mascot suit. And then I was like, oh, I guess that was a real guy.
yeah, just like in front of the kids. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, we're also introduced in this episode to gunpowered. It's like
hmm
what is it, like Bucky Barnes, I would say, the
A very
sidekick.
a very Republican Bucky Barnes,
Yeah,
extreme right,
that
extreme right.
that get triggered slogan.
Yes, yeah,
Oh man, he's like, yeah, use that promo code gunpowder and you can get a discount on your guns. It's just like, oh man.
yeah.
I think it's funny though how like he kind of looked like a bootlegged Judge Dredd, which is what Carl Urban played a
Okay,
few
yeah.
years back. Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of like characters in this series. I think season 3 that like people can look at. It's like, oh, that looks familiar from like the last
Yes.
few years.
hmm And I think that's what Boys has always really succeeded at, is kind of showing all these like different levels to our culture today. And I really like that they're kind of expanding on their like superhero arsenal so we can see some of these different supers. Because, I think Gunpowder was very different from what Vought kind of like pushes. I would say, I'm not going to give political parties to anyone, but Vought seemed very like kind of more liberal leaning, would
Mhm.
try to be very inclusive and all that. So it's interesting to see, like, but there are supers that can ponder to like the other side of like the political agenda. And I thought that was, that always makes for really good commentary on, all of our culture today.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool to see because, there would definitely be a group of people who would highly support that type of super. So I like that kind of level of
You see, everyone can
interest.
relate to a super if you want. You
Yeah,
got
there
your
we
own
go. Maybe,
a
yeah.
metaphor. Oh my god. I when he started shooting, because like there's times in the show where it's so quiet, so I have to make it loud.
hmm
He just starts blasting, and I'm just like, fuck, my neighbor's gonna get mad.
No,
So I had to
yeah.
lower.
Definitely a very, I guess, his skill arsenal would definitely be like kind of like a bullseye. I guess he just had really good aim
Yeah.
and like knowledge of weapons, I guess, was his power.
We also see like that Stormfront was no, she was still alive. Spoilers. She was still alive, and Homelander was visiting her for just to say hi. I guess we could say.
To relieve stress.
Yeah. That's so bad. And then in this episode is where he's trying to save a girl from stepping off the ledge and committing suicide, and it's terrible because Homelander, she's like, "I'm Jewish." She's like, "So step off the ledge." Then I was like, "Damn, dude."
Which I like. um, you see it like, but I did have and I guess we'll probably get into it more later because I did have some gripes with the whole like Stormfront tie-in, but we can get to that later. But I did
No,
really
please
like.
go.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
I
if
was
you
gonna
want.
say one of my gripes. I have enjoyed season 3 a lot more than season 2. I think
Mhm.
season 1 is still my favorite, which is surprising because it's not often that like a first season I think like really started a series really strongly. But like I love season 1. But I just don't understand why Stormfront was included in season 3. I feel like they could have easily killed her off in season 2, and that would have been just a perfectly fine ending for her. I mean, I can kind of guess that they were thinking her suicide was going to be like the trigger, the final thing that set Homelander off, but I feel like he was still in a perfectly fine position to snap at anything. So like, I don't know. I just feel like for her to be forced included in like the first 2 episodes was just kind of weird. I was like, I feel like she could have easily been written off and we would be in the same exact place as where we were.
Yeah, I think it would have been that pivotal for her to be in this
Yeah.
season
So
3.
I
Yeah.
don't know. That was kind of my thing where I was like, all right, this is all right. Guess your Nazi girlfriend is still around. Cool.
I guess yeah, I thinking in hindsight, it's like, yeah, they could have done without her, but I think for the other side of it, they're just like, the audience is going to ask where's she at. We saw she didn't fully die in season 2, so
Yeah.
and that's probably their
Which I
cheap
think
way
they
of
should have
saying.
just killed her off in season 2, but you know.
Yeah, when his son like killed her or like blasted her, she was still like reciting like Nazi stuff.
I was
It's
like, oh,
insane.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I did like that the episode 2, like the whole theme was like kind of like Homelander's birthday. And how,
Yeah.
and how so much of his like, because like if you haven't seen the animated series, his episode is worth watching in the animated series because like the reason that I think Homelander is such like an interesting character is not just because he's awful, he's like literally the worst, and that's why we like him because yeah, at least you can always, if you are having a bad day, just think to yourself, well, I could be Homelander and everything will be better. He's like the lowest of the lows, but but he has like a really tragic early history. He's actually quite a sad character because he was experimented on. He was basically just a as Edgar calls him, a bad product. So I kind of like it when they sprinkle in some things that kind of show you how he got to this level of extremes. And I really like that the whole thing like was centered around like his birthday and how no one actually cared that it was his birthday, but it's this like big propaganda show. And I love when Edgar was like when John was trying to push the envelope about trying to be in control when Starlight is kind of the one who's calling the shots now. And
Yeah.
Edgar just basically told him like he needed to knock it off, and like Homelander was throwing a fit. Edgar was like, "Well, it's your party. You can cry if you want
Yeah.
to." I was like, "Oh, Edgar, you big joker." No, I thought that was funny.
He is such a boss in this series,
Oh,
I
I know.
think.
Which I'm really curious, as we know, as we leave off with episode 4. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe they hint to it at episode 5. I haven't seen it yet. Sorry, but I am curious about what will happen to Edgar because he does not seem a man who would let Homelander do what he did to him without any sort of repercussion coming back around.
Exactly, and just let him win. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, his birthday was funny. But to your point, when you're talking about Homeland, like, he's pretty sad story. I think you kind of saw that in season 2, like later
Mhm.
throughout the season when he's talking to his son, and
Yeah.
even when like Stormfront was like trying to like push her like Nazi propaganda, he's like, no,
Yeah,
we
he was
don't.
like, "No."
He's
I
like,
mean,
no genocide. We're not. No, we're not.
I mean, he's still pretty disablist and racist, so we're not going to excuse Homelander as being any ideal in that regard.
No, no,
But
no.
I did like that they try to what they can humanize him in a little way. I think Vogelbaum was his scientist father figure kind of from season 2, and I really liked Vogelbaum's conversation with Butcher in season 2 about Homelander and how like as a child he was very sweet and how he liked, I think it was like David Crockett, or like he liked very like very state of the art early American heroes, and all that. I think his Teddy Roosevelt was like his favorite president. So
Yeah.
it was like he had very like humbled beginnings, and it was like, oh, he could have been like a good person if you hadn't treated him the way you did, and then just like grew into like a monster.
Right.
So I hope they continue to like. I don't want them to try to and I don't think they will in the show. I don't think they're trying to redeem him or excuse any of his actions as being valid, but I do appreciate them trying to at least humanize him to the extent to kind of try to explain how he got to where he is.
Right, and sometimes like villains don't need some like redemption arc. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They just
sometimes we
kill
love them
them.
because they're terrible.
Yeah.
It gives us a person to like fight against. But it is nice that he's not just like mustache twirly. I'm evil because I want to be. Yeah.
Dr. Robotnik, just like I do like the Lego stop motion that he did.
Orion.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I was just like, oh, that's nice. I had to like pause for a second to rewind. I was like, oh, that's cool. They're
Yeah,
showing
because you
stop
do a
motion.
lot of stop motion, so you probably appreciated that.
Not as good as Ryan's, but But yeah, his birthday was funny. What he said to A-Train was so mean. He kept fat shaming A-Train the whole time.
Oh. Which makes me really curious. I mean, I can understand it to an extent because we see, I think it's either episode 3 or 4. They all start blurring together after a while.
Yeah.
He and A Train and the Deep have kind of a confrontation because I guess the Deep is arguably in a better place right now in the 7,
Mhm.
which wasn't true in season 1. Season 1, he was kind of the the lowest in the hierarchy of the 7. But now we can see that he's kind of with his popularity of his book and his movie or his show or whatever. He's now higher than A Train, who's been struggling because he has that heart condition, so he can't really run. So, he's not really as relevant.
Yeah.
And I did like that they kind of came to head over that, but I find it really interesting with Homelander being so blatantly disrespectful towards him that he would, spoiler alert, give away the secret that Annie and Maeve and all of them are trying to attempt a coup against Homelander. I thought it was very interesting he was the whistleblower when he's very obviously shown he does not like how Homelander treats him. But I guess it's a commentary if he wants to get on the good graces and you kind of try to appease the head honcho to get there.
Yeah, but like everything gets spilled out.
I know. I was
He's
like, he was like, A Train told me. I was like, A Train, no, you're
it's
supposed to be
like
better than that.
yeah, and then also in season 2 when like A-Train's like relegated to have to go to the church and like he's the one that
Yeah,
gets to go back into the 7 after and
yeah.
Deep was like, what
And the
about me?
Deep
What about
wasn't.
me?
Yeah. Now the Deep is back and he's the
Yeah.
better.
So it's like that's interesting dynamic. Like they're both kind of roles reversed.
Mhm.
And then like they're arguing in the hallway about how like he'll let him know how he found that footage in the sea. And
Yeah. Now they
then
both kind of have blackmail against each other. Which I always find it like it was the same with like I guess Starlight tried excusing it because at least she played music. But I was like, anytime these people have these sort of conversations, I'm like, you guys remember that Homelander has like super hearing, right? Maybe we shouldn't be talking about this in this crowded hallway when he's nearby.
I genuinely wonder that. I'm like, I wonder if this is going to be a scene some point where he's going to be like, I've heard every single
Yeah,
conversation. Yes.
yeah, like where he reveals that's like, actually, I've kind of known this all along because you guys talk very loudly and I have supersonic hearing. Because I'm like,
we,
how is this guy not hearing any of this?
we also start to see though. It's funny because we keep talking about the 7 because it's the most interesting part, but we also find out that like Billy's been taking some of Compound V, the temporary one that Maeve gave him.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was pretty interesting because I like the powers that he has though. Because it's like, damn.
They're very, yeah. So, I know I don't know too much about the comics, but I know a little bit in order to kind of compare it to the show. And I know in the comics they take like a V in order to be able to combat the supers because obviously as we see in season 2 one of my favorite scenes actually was when he's trying to get Stormfront off of Becca and he's hitting her with a crowbar and you can see how futile it is. Like honestly if they just went at it obviously
Yeah,
the boys would lose. So I do like that kind of upping of the power scale. And I'm really curious because in one of the trailers for episode 3, we see Homelander with a bruise on his eye, and you can see him looking at himself in the mirror, and he looks very shocked. So I'm hopeful that like Butcher's gonna get like a good punch in, and then Homelander's gonna be like, oh, I actually have someone who's kind of on par with me, and how he's gonna take that. Because Homelander's greatest strength is that he's the strongest superhero in the world. You take that away, he might not actually be that capable of a fighter.
yeah. I and I remember they teased it even in the trailer. But you're right though; they do take it in the comics. Like they do take Compound V. But even in the trailer, he was like, "This is what evens the playing field." Like now we have it. But
Yes.
I find it interesting that they made one for just 24 hours.
Yeah, and I think they spun it in a very interesting way because, as Edgar said, he was trying to refocus Vought on being a pharmaceutical company. And at the end of the day, what a big company wants is to make profit. And so if they have a temporary V that people have to keep buying, they have to keep taking, they could possibly get addicted to, your profit margins are going to be off the roof. So
Yeah,
I thought it was very interesting to come from that angle to like show, and that Edgar I think made a cool comment about like the problem is that they made superheroes almost like gods, and so they kind of want to take that away, like making superheroes was a problem, as we
yeah.
can see. It goes
I,
to a lot of their heads.
I remember that Edgar's interaction with Homelander. He's like, "We're not a superhero company; we're a pharmaceutical company."
Yeah, and they are, and
You're
it's
a badass.
and then Homelander buys Vought, so he's like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. This is the part where like you see the turn in Homelander though. He has like he goes off script at the end.
Hmm.
Um, it
which is
happens.
which was very reminiscent to the church festival in season 1 when he goes on that unhinged rant about how they need to be like make America great again, essentially. So I
Oh,
thought it was really cool to see Homelander again go to that unhinged rant. It's
yeah.
very, return to form.
It was so from experience from like watching pro wrestling, like that happens a lot in pro wrestling where like wrestlers will try to go off script and
Okay.
it's really believable. I felt like kind of parallels of that with Homelander's speech. It felt like it was actually him. Like, so kudos to Tony Starr's acting. I really like that. The
Oh
speech.
yeah. Hmm.
I don't agree with what he says, but I like the speech. It was good. It felt real.
Yes. And I think it was also that's kind of a cool like commentary about like how we look up to people in social media, especially today, and celebrities, but we never really know them because to an extent they are all putting on a persona,
Yeah.
for the public. And so I thought that was kind of a cool, Homelander's definitely been playing a persona and kind of hiding who he really is. And now that he's like showing his real self, he sees that he's getting better results and kind of like, ooh, what can he do with that? Because this whole time we've been setting up that like, oh, if people knew how bad you were, no one's going to support you. And surprise, surprise, well, there'll be some people who support you.
Those
Maybe
girls
not who
think
you
it's gonna be a
want,
lot. It's
but
just gonna be
yeah.
the stepfather as well. Oh man, that was terrible. He was like sitting in front of the TV screen, like, yeah, I can relate to that. He's our guy.
Yeah.
um, I think it was pretty horrible when he pushed that girl over the cliff. He was like, yeah, go ahead, because he saw a Stormfront die, and
Mhm.
then he was just like, screw it. It's like, go ahead and jump. Like,
Yeah, and I think the name of the episode, because he kind of quotes it as like the only man in the sky, and kind of the whole
yeah,
like, I'm God essentially. So obviously we see what direction Homelander's going with himself in this season.
he's the real hero.
Hmm. Not just a hero, he's God.
Is there any other parts in this episode? Because I want to go to episode 3 when they start to look for Soldier Boy.
Oh yeah.
But,
Oh yeah, we can go on with that.
so the first, God, the part that stuck out in episode 3 first immediately was that like when she comes in with his numbers, his approval ratings, it's like this is the first time we ever see Homelander without his uniform. just a straight fuck ass dude.
Well, technically,
Oh no,
in
here we
an
go. I'm gonna
episode
good.
in season 2, we did see the doppelganger as him in
Oh,
lingerie.
come
So
on.
we have seen him without his uniform on, and neither times is that what I just want him in some blue jeans, a t-shirt. Not really either what they gave us.
I retract my statement.
I mean, technically you're right because it wasn't
No,
really
no,
him,
no.
but
But it was just funny to me because she's just like chilling there, just drinking. We learn about Operation Charlie in this episode.
yes, and more about Grace Mallory,
Mhm.
who was not really, she didn't really lead the boys. It's always been Butcher, but I guess she was the one who kind of initiated the whole thing.
Yeah, and
I
like
guess she was kind of like their boss for a little bit. I don't know, but she had connections with the boys, obviously.
they kind of went rogue, like when Soldier Boy started like firing off all the guns.
Yes.
Yeah, that was insane.
And we got some little information on Black Noir. Um, because he's always been a very interesting character to me, because if you read the comics, spoiler alert, he's a clone of Homelander in the comics, and obviously they have heavily diverted from that in
Really?
he was the reason he wore a suit and a mask was because he was a clone of Homelander that I think Vought made as like a contingency plan.
Wow.
Um, but in the show, obviously they decided to go a completely different route with his character, and so I thought it was really sad that his last conversation was about how he didn't want to wear a mask anymore, and then his face gets blown up, and now he only wears a mask. So I'm thinking, because obviously Noir answered to Edgar in season 2 because he goes after Butcher and his aunt, or I think that's whose house they go to. Anyway,
Yeah.
the only reason he stops from killing Butcher is because Edgar calls him and wants to talk to Butcher. So we see in the flashback of that little battle that he was talking to a young Stan Edgar. So I wonder if they're brothers or they have some sort of family
Ooh.
relationship, because it would explain kind of
There's a
why he's like his attack dog essentially.
Yeah, like key details.
Mhm.
Paying attention. No, I didn't know he was a clone in the comics. That's pretty cool. It is kind of sad that he didn't want to wear a mask and then gets blown up. I'm like, whoa, that's Black Noir. We
I
haven't really
know.
seen much of him this season either, and that's kind of sad. I was hoping we
Yeah,
saw.
I was gonna say my other complaints, we hardly see Maeve either. I'm like,
Yeah,
come on, give Queen Maeve like throughout all the season, she has like the least amount of screen time, and I think she's one of the more interesting characters. So hopefully she'll pick up her pace a little.
she's like in like regular business gear now. She's not. Well, sometimes she was rocking the outfit, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. One thing that was really disturbing in this was when he made Deep eat Timothy.
Oh yeah, the
I was
octopus.
just like, no, that's so. He's such an asshole. It's like you're gonna
Though
love this food, though he deserved
though
it.
I was gonna say I did really like the parallel that he had something unwanted he had to put in his mouth, given what he did to Starlight in season
That's true.
one. It
Yeah,
was kind of a, well, now the turntables. Not that, you should justify forcing someone to eat an octopus when they don't want to, but given his character, it was ironically some payback.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing is like I felt bad, but there's moments where just like, wait a minute, these people deserve it. Like, for what
Yes. Yeah.
the But that was insane because his wife was like, eat the fucking octopus.
Yeah, something I'm really Cassandra, I think is her name. I don't know. I'm really interested in Deep's wife too because she's kind of a sadist. Like, she's obviously really into some things, and I'm like, oh, what's your whole deal?
Yeah, it's surprising because last season we didn't get any inkling of this. You just thought she was some like typical crazy like
Church,
big
yeah,
girl.
follower, yeah. So
Yeah. So she's like, eat it. And I don't. Was Timothy talking to him right before he ate him? It's like, please
they
don't.
probably,
I
I
heard
think,
like a
because he
voice.
has Deep has telekinetic connections with animals. We see that with the lobster in season 2. It also gets killed.
It's so gross because it just like splats out the. Oh,
Mm.
have you ever had octopus before?
I did, yes, once. It's very rubbery. I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's text. I can't stand the texture. That's why I
Oh,
can't eat
yeah.
that or
It just
calamari.
doesn't taste like anything. Oh, I'm allergic to calamari, so I can't eat
Well,
that
see,
anyway.
you're
There
not
you go.
allergic to shellfish, are you?
No, which is strange because usually if you have a seafood allergy, that's what you're allergic to. But it's just so far, it's just calamari.
No, that's good.
So no squids for me.
Live squids. Oh, and yeah, and what's her face was eating like the lobster. She's like, it's so
Yes.
delicious.
Oh, and I don't like watching people eat in general, so I just like hated all the close-up shots of them just like slurping down like all of the clams and stuff. I was like, oh, but it did a good job in showing like probably how the Deep was feeling, that equal level of disgust.
Mhm. Yeah. um, I forgot when Kamiko got shot when she was trying to she was at the Russian place where
Yeah.
the prostitutes were. I forgot she can like remove the bullets because like, oh my god, she's dead.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, she has that
I
regenerative.
totally forgot about that. I'm like, wow, they
Mhm.
killed off her character.
Which, not to jump around, and I feel like we've been strongly ignoring the boys' actions in this
Sorry, yeah,
series.
that's my
Sorry,
fault.
we're really no. I'm also find the superheroes a little more interesting. Because we see with MM, he comes back into the boys because his
I
family
like they
has
say
beef.
MM instead of Mother's
Mm,
Milk.
Marvin, I think also his name is Marvin too.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, he comes back kind of loosely into the boys towards episode 3 or 4, and his
Mhm.
reason is because his family, which maybe they explored in season 2, I can't remember too much. He blames his soldier boy for killing his family. I know his father died basically of being overworked because he obsessed over it. I forgot exactly what soldier boy did to his family. Do you remember? Have they explored that, or are we just? I just
Wait,
can't remember the inciting incident that makes Marvin hate Soldier Boy so much.
so
Any
like you, all the episodes blend together. I don't know if it was part of episode 5. I don't want to spoil it, but you mind if I say
Oh,
it?
okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
You do see him when he's younger, and I think Soldier Boy just straight up blast his family.
Oh,
I'm trying
okay,
to remember
okay.
what the event was, but he's standing there as a kid watching. I think his dad dies. So I was like, wow.
Oh, okay, okay. So, okay. Yeah, because I was like, did I miss them saying what Soldier Boy did to his family? So, obviously, he comes back into the boys because they're going after Soldier Boy
Yeah, he's got a
because,
vendetta to kill him.
yeah, because they think he has the power to stop Homelander. Which I will say my other biggest gripe with season 3, and it was my biggest gripe with season 2. I hate Ryan.
You do?
Maybe it's because I don't like kids. I just it was like I don't watch The
Oh yeah.
Boys. I don't watch The Boys to watch an evil superhero try to be a dad. Like, I hated the whole family thing they were trying to go with season 2. I was like, this is so boring. And I think my greatest fear is like I don't want Ryan to be the one to do Homelander in. I think that would be so cliche. Like,
I,
oh, the son who has the same powers as his dad is gonna defeat him because after all, he's the better. He's like what Homelander could have been if he was raised well and he could redeem himself. I'm like, don't. I would love it if they subverted expectation and Ryan tries to fight him, and then John just completely annihilates him
it just kills him.
because
Yeah.
he's stronger and older. But the other reason I have a big issue with Ryan's involvement is that at least in the comics, spoiler alert again, the end antagonist is actually Billy. Billy ends up being kind of the villain towards the end after Homelander's been dealt with. It's kind of like Billy's kind of gone off the rails too.
Mhm.
And the reason Billy's so interesting in the comics to me is because he's Homelander, just a different side of the coin. They both have they're very extreme in their ideologies. They're both very violent. They both use people. There's a lot of parallels that say Butcher and Homelander are pretty much the same person. The reason we root for one is because we have more emotional investment in them, and the reason we don't root for the other is because we're told that one's the bad guy. And so I want to see more of like Butcher, like, because you see it a little bit when he like tells Kamiko she's like his weapon. Like he has no care for her. We kind of see it again towards the episode 4 when she's dying, and all he cares about is the fact that Soldier Boy has this new development. And so I wish this season would show more that he's essentially just as cruel as Homelander can be. And the reason I don't like it is because they're trying to redeem him by like having him be like this like surrogate father figure with Ryan. And I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I want you to show that he's like the same. He's the same as Homelander, just like a different person essentially. And they're trying to like soften him up. And I'm like, no, stop with the no.
So I was
And
like, as someone that's read the comics, like that's probably like frustrating because it's like
yeah,
kind of
because
the
it's
turn from the source material. Yeah.
yes, because the beauty of his character is that you realize in the very end, there's no difference between him and Homelander, and you've been rooting for him this whole time, and at the end it's like, but you're the same. And that's like the beauty of it is that he has the right to judge Homelander when he makes as awful decisions as he does. And I personally, just because how I see Billy, I don't see him being able to like accept Ryan. Like to me that seemed very out of character because we see he's very extreme in his views. Like he hates all supers. Ryan's a super. You're telling me this man who spent 7 years obsessing over his missing wife is just going to accept his like arch nemesis's son who was semi responsible for his wife's murder. Like in the comics when Becca has Ryan,
Mhm.
I don't know if he was ever named. He literally beats the baby to death with like a lamp post. And it's
Oh,
like,
Butcher does. He just kills.
yeah, he just
Wow.
takes a lamp and just beats the baby to death because it kills Becca, and that's his like emotional reaction to it. And I was like, so I don't
Damn.
know. I just like this whole like try to paint Butcher in a better light. I'm like, I would rather you stick with the content that the beauty of it is that he and Homelander are the same.
Did you hate it at the end of season 2 when he was like giving him his goodbye speech? He's like, "Remember what I told you, right?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Don't."
Yes, and like I forgot. I think it's Becca's necklace or whatever Ryan has, and someone pointed out that on the necklace there's it's a saint, and I forgot the saint's name. But in the story, the saint is helping a baby cross a treacherous river, and I think there's a point in time where he almost abandons the kid, but decides against it, and you find out at the very end the baby's Jesus. So I think they're trying to paint that Ryan could be their savior against Homelander or whatever. So I'm just like, oh, can we just forget about the kid? Homelander already has. He asked about him once, and he was just like, well, I don't care.
So God, I don't want to. I don't remember if this was episode 5 or not. I
Oh, it's fine. I'll watch it eventually. So,
what I because I you do see him like they're at the house and he's leaving and Ryan tries to stop him. He's like,
oh yeah,
"No."
that's episode 4.
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping around here, but yeah, he does say like, "How can I ever forgive you? You killed my wife. You killed."
Yeah, which I'm curious about because I don't know if I hope it's the latter because it would go more towards how I would want the series to go. But I can't tell if he was saying that in order to try to push Brian away. So, because he wants to keep him safe from, and he knows now that he's taken V, he's becoming dangerous.
Yeah,
And it's already said that and V is kind of like the super soldier serum from Marvel, and that anyone who takes it, it like enhances every aspect of their personality. So the other side of me is like, well, maybe the drug is like showing what he really thinks and that he does still honestly feel that way about Ryan, and maybe there's gonna genuinely be a rift there, which I hope so, but I
I
don't know
think
if that
so.
was just him pushing him away or that was the V talking.
I think it's because even in season 2, he set up so that Becca wouldn't get the kid. He's like, remember
Yeah, he was gonna sell it out to Vought.
yeah, he was bargaining with Edgar. He was like, you take the boy, and me and Becca go. You know,
Yeah. So I hope they stick with that because then it would show that like, oh well, he's gonna abandon you just like Homelander abandoned you, and that's kind of more on par to like how Billy's character has always kind of been. But
I
I'm
never,
keeping my eye on it. It's just my least favorite plot line right now.
I never knew that's what it was like in the comics. Because like when I'm seeing it now in season 3, I was like, wow, what an asshole! Like he doesn't care about the team. Like Kamiko almost like was dying pretty
Oh
much.
yeah,
He was just like cares. Like,
yeah. That is. It's like Butcher's always just been, and that's why. I mean, it kind of came out of left field. I don't think the show has exactly showed enough to merit Mallory's response, but Mallory basically calls him his father, and as we saw with season 2, his dad was just like abusive and a terrible person, and obviously that would probably hurt Butcher the most by being like his father. But yeah, that's what he is. He isn't a great dude. The reason we vouch for him is because we think at least the superheroes are even worse of the dudes.
yeah, that's true. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here because there's another thing I forgot to mention. Like, do you remember how in this episode, like Homelander's like, I know about your plan. I know we're drifting away from the actual boys. We're talking about superheroes.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
Look at superheroes. But he was like, I know what you try to do. It's the best view. You won't see it anywhere else. And it's supersonic.
And it's supersonic. Yeah, I had some people. I think at least 2 people messaging me on Instagram before I saw it, and they were just like, "Oh, screw Homelander. He needs to die." After this episode came out, and I was sitting there like, man, what did he do? Like, he's already done such terrible things that merit his death. I was like, what did he do that like escalated it? And then I
Yeah.
found out it was Supersonic was dead, and I was like, oh. I mean, I felt bad because I really didn't care because I kind of saw it coming. Obviously,
You did?
Supersonic. Yeah, I was like, Supersonic's not going to make this out alive. He has too much emotional connection to Starlight. It
Oh.
it would be easy to use that against her, but also too, I don't know. I felt like if they really wanted us to care about this dude, they should have introduced him in like season 1 or something, and then like his death would have been really effective. We've only known him for like 3 episodes, and I already knew he was probably going to die. So I was like, well,
Oh, I didn't
this
know
was
that.
this was early.
I thought he was going to stay around just for that like conflict with Starlight, Huey, and Supersonic.
Oh, okay, yeah, the whole like love triangle thing.
Yeah, but I guess
Will they, won't they?
he already clarified that. He was like, "There's no way my
Yeah.
family me marry."
And I saw a meme and it was really funny. It was like, you and it was Huey, versus the guy she didn't tell you about. No, the guy she told not to worry about, and it's Supersonic. And then it was like the guy she didn't even tell you about, and it's Homelander. Because Homelander's been like, oh, we're dating now, which I'm
Yeah,
like, you know, I'm
and
like,
then you see,
I'm like, John, can you go a season without needing some sort of love interest? Just calm down, sir.
yeah. Well, the thing. So the reason why it was like I thought it was sad is like he didn't even get an on-screen death. He was
No,
just
he
dead.
didn't.
That was the scene.
Which I've heard some people speculate, well, maybe he's not alive because we didn't see the face. And I'm like, all right, but we saw the body. I'm like, how far do we take this argument?
He's
Like, okay,
dead.
maybe not, but I'm like, I think he's dead. I don't think John cares enough to go murder someone and put them in his suit. Be like, I killed him, but I didn't really.
Some people are actually speculating that he's not really dead. Come on.
I'm like, there's
He's
4
home.
episodes left now after episode 5. I think they have other things they need to start focusing on. Like Soldier Boy, which we got in the end of episode 4.
Yeah, I like how he didn't even think he was gonna make it. Though I was like, oh, it's cool. He's gonna be part of the 7. And yeah, he's gone. But yeah, speaking of Soldier Boy, yeah, he looks very much like Steve Rogers from Infinity War. Like,
yes.
when they first showed his like promo images, I'm like, yo, he looks like Captain America on the run.
Which I wonder if since the boys team has paid such close attention to DC and Marvel, I wonder if that was intentional because in the comics, Soldier Boy is very much a parody of like 1945 Captain America, early propaganda All America Captain America. So I wonder if they took any of that inspiration to make him seem like a Captain America because he's supposed to be a parody of him.
Like the Golden Boy like song they play. Like, because when I was trying to put like a story for our podcast tonight, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this song they played. It's like a cheesy music video, and I'm trying to remember they showed it, and like I think was watching it, and he was like having flashbacks in his head.
Yeah, he was like gripping the chair really hard.
Yeah, that's crazy. So in the comics, what is like Soldier Boy's power? Is it the same thing as Homelander? It's pretty much just.
I can't really remember exactly. Like I said, I haven't extensively read the comics. I just kind of filled myself in when when the show is coming out. I just know he was like a weaker Homelander. So I think he had like a lot of strengths that Homelander did. Like I'm guessing like super strength. But he was just the outdated version. And then they upgraded and we got Homelander. So
Are
like
you
I think his powers are probably very similar to Captain America.
are you thinking at some point we're gonna see a showdown between those two?
Maybe I know since I know a lot of people were really excited that Eccles was coming to the show, obviously because the show writer also worked on Supernatural, so he had the strong pull there. So I know a lot of people really want to see a lot of Soldier Boy because they love the actor. But I don't know how involved he's gonna be because we haven't seen much of him. But maybe that'll change now that we have the
Last
last
one.
4 episodes. Will like really get him in. But I don't know. I mean, in the comics, he was definitely the lesser subservient version of Homelander, so maybe they'll pay homage to that and have like Homelander beat him. Um, but I don't know if there'll be a direct confrontation or not. The boys never very. It's hard to guess sometimes. But it would
Wha-
be cool. It would be cool to see a showdown. I don't know if he would win or not, but it would be cool to see a showdown.
So what's interesting about that actor is he was actually on a soap opera. I don't know if
Oh,
anyone
what?
knows this, but like, sorry to go like off track here, but like when you mentioned his name, I looked it up. I was like, oh yeah, he was on Days of Our Lives.
Oh, I
Growing
was
up, we
even
didn't
know
have
that.
cable, so we had like syndication. So we
Okay,
watched
yeah.
it. And he was on there. So then when I saw him on Supernatural, I was like, oh, that's so and so from Days of Our Lives. And my friends looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what? It's like, yeah, he was on a soap opera.
Most people know him from Supernatural. You know him from a soap opera.
Yeah, I know actors from like the worst movies they've done. It's like, oh yeah, he was in like Mel Gibson was from What Women Want instead of
No,
the
wait.
Braveheart or whatever. Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
uh, I'm trying to remember episode 4 or 5. What happens in 4? They go to
they go to Russia because I mean I guess we should comment on it. Frenchie I guess was involved in a Russian mob or
yeah.
gang in during his past, and obviously he has some Cherie, as we know, the girl since kind of season 1, obviously got into some bad blood there, so Butcher used that contact in order to get them to Russia. And so episode 4 left off with them finding Superboy or Super Soldier, whatever, blah blah blah. It's got so many names. Him, find Ackles. They find Ackles. Very Winter Soldier esque, I think, was the parallels they're trying to make. Obviously, was in cryo freeze. The Russians were
Oh
experimenting
yeah.
on him.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I haven't seen episode 5, but maybe has suffered memory loss. I don't know, what he remembers, but he escapes the facility. We see that, I guess, the at least from what I remember leaving off episode 4 with, is that he didn't have that supersonic blast power, and they were
No.
surprised that he
Yeah.
had it. That
Yeah.
was obviously a new development that I'm guessing the Russians did, and that I'm guessing from what I could tell, the blast has like the power to like negate superhero abilities because it seems to like not make Kamiko able to regenerate.
I thought she was
Either
gonna
the
die.
blast was
Yeah.
yeah, either the blast was too powerful. I don't know if it canceled out her powers completely or if it was just so strong she couldn't like combat that. I don't know. I maybe episode 5 answers that. But that's kind of where we left off, was that it was really weird that she wasn't healing and that is she gonna die? Isn't she? I knew she probably wouldn't because she's you can't kill off the only female in the boys.
Yeah. I now I'm like remembering that episode. Yeah, right before they actually discover him, I forgot Huey also took Compound. We haven't
Yes,
really mentioned Huey, but he took Compound
I
V.
know. Yes, he did, which I thought was interesting. Like I think Huey's character definitely throughout the season, we see him become more confident as the seasons progress.
Yeah.
Obviously in season 1, his father was like, "You shouldn't fight against Vought because that's not who you are. You're kind of a coward." As we see in season 2, he's trying to change that. In season 3, he's definitely I find it really interesting that he takes Compound V because I think, he's feeling threatened by Supersonic with Starlight. He's feeling threatened by Homelander. He knows he's arguably the physically weakest of the boys. He's not like Marvin, who was a Marine. He's not like Frenchie, who's very tactical and explosives and all that. He's definitely not Butcher, who was CIA. So I can see the reasons why he would want to take V, because finally he could defend himself. He finally has like a chance to fight. And I think it would be very interesting because since Huey is such a good person, I think it would be a cool route to see him having to grapple with, the addiction or what V could give you, because he's such a sweet character. To watch him like have to struggle against this possible corruption would be kind of cool.
You kind of
Because
see that.
Butcher's already, we're not surprised if Butcher goes a little crazy. He's always been a little like dirty, but Huey having to struggle with that is like a little bit different. So, and we
You
see it
can,
at the very end that he's like really into it.
like he's looking at his arm because it's healed, and yeah.
Hmm.
But no, Billy Butcher's redeemed himself. He's the father
Oh
figure
yes,
now, and he's
yeah,
taking
yeah.
care.
He's such a good guy.
Yeah,
He would definitely buy Amazon products.
I remember.
He doesn't like supers, but he loves that super fast Prime shipping. I'm like, oh, come on, Amazon, I see you. You think Butcher would shop on Amazon? Come on now.
As if Amazon needed
Product
a shameless
placement.
plug. Yeah.
I was gonna say, which is like the fun irony. It's actually a little scary if you spend too much time thinking about it. But I was like, wow, Amazon is really self-aware. They know they're bought. They could do whatever they want, but you'll still buy from them. They're this huge company with all this power and influence, and here they're making a show about how bad big companies are, and we're gonna watch it. We're gonna support it.
Yeah, we're like, screw Amazon, and then right after we're done, we're gonna end up ordering something for Prime delivery.
I'm surprised it wasn't called Vamazon or something with all their like VOT jokes in there. But I guess Amazon wants you to know we're not a ripoff. You're gonna buy our products.
Yeah. Do you remember when they're in there and there's like a hamster? He's
The
like,
gerbil? Was
yeah,
it
the
a
gerbil.
gerbil? Was
You
he a
say a
gerbil?
gerbil, and like it like gouges
Or
at
was it a
one dude.
hamster?
Yeah, that was
Yeah. It's like it's like a little super rodent. Obviously, it's to hint that I guess the Russians have been experimenting, which I'm guessing. I mean, maybe again they might answer this in episode 5, so you'll excuse me for being an episode behind. But I'm guessing the Russians have been experimenting because it would give them like a super to combat America's supers if we ever went to war with them. I'm
it's
guessing that's why they were interested in it.
it's almost like I've heard this before somewhere.
Oh yeah,
Like I don't know
almost.
if I've seen this before in some other.
Dude, I will say
Probably
this. I can't speak on it because I'm not Russian, but between like, because I've been also watching Stranger Things.
I've
Why is there
never
so
seen
many?
it.
Why is there so many Soviet Russian plot lines? Like, oh, it's the Russians were behind it all. I'm like, all right, let's give them a break.
Stranger Things is one of those. I still never seen an episode of it. Like, what is it? Like 7 seasons deep now? Like,
It's only 4.
oh
And,
wow,
and, and
I'm
the and
way
the fourth
off.
and the 4th season is so good. You need to watch it. I wasn't even a big fan of Stranger Things, I'll admit it. I was never a die on the Stranger Hills, but episode I mean the first season really good. Season 2 and season 3 all right. Season 4 like cinematic masterpiece. It is worth watching.
Oh come on, no I'm kidding.
It is. It's actually really good. But yes, they also have, not to spoil it, I guess, but they have like this Soviet Russians are semi behind it all plot line too. And I'm just like, man,
It's
when
such an
America needs a bad guy, it's just like the Russians were behind it. Those little sneaks.
yeah. But I didn't want to like say, because like obviously I was alluding to that, but I didn't want to say it. But it's like, damn, every time there's something, there's always like a Russian like protagonist.
Every time. I'm like, oh man.
But how do you think it's going to play out like for the rest? I mean, you haven't seen episode 5 yet, but how do
I
you think it's going
haven't.
to play out for the rest? Because we're at the halfway point. So
Yes, we are. So we're halfway through season 3. I think, if I could remember correctly, I think the showrunner said that they arguably would like 5 seasons of The
jeez.
Boys. So I mean, they might milk it for longer. Which, whether or not they should, who knows? We will have to get there. But so I don't think,
So
So if we have 2 more seasons, ideally, I don't think we're gonna see the end of Homelander in this season. Maybe Super Boy will give him a challenge, but
Superboy. You're funny now.
Soldier Boy. Sorry,
No, you're good. You're good. It's just funny because all
there's
these
too many
names are all like,
S's. Yeah, I'm like Super Soldier Serum, Super Soldier, Super Boy. It's so much. But Soldier Boy, I don't think Soldier Boy's gonna win. I don't know. Maybe he'll come out of it alive because Ackles is a pretty big pretty big actor. I know a lot of people are starting to watch The Boys because he's in it. So
really,
maybe, yeah. I know a lot of Supernatural fans have come over.
or Days of Our Lives fans.
Or Days of Our Lives fan. But so maybe they'll keep him on just because I know the show writer enjoys working with him. And he's so big of a name. It would be kind of a disappointment if they wrote him off so quickly, but I don't think, going into kind of the second half of it, I don't think we're gonna see like Homelander get killed or anything to that extreme. I think at best we might see him be put in his place. Like now that Butcher kind of has equal power to him, I think he'll finally have like a pretty decent amount of pushback, especially if Maeve comes into the fray. But I don't think Homelander is gonna be like at an extreme loss by the end of it. I would ideally like another season of him still being a pretty big, powerful threat that they're having to take on.
Yeah, I wasn't I don't see that either, but I was hoping that there was a sequence where like he gets put in his place, like you said.
Yeah,
Whether
it seems there's like a leaked promo shot of Homelander in the superhero landing in the Vought Tower, and it looks like some of it is destroyed. So if I have to speculate, maybe we'll get like a big Vought fight in the season final with Homelander. But
are you sure that wasn't the Bork cut? Like it's not.
maybe yeah, it was some deleted scenes from Dawn of the Seven. But but yeah, so I would like to see some Homelander kind of struggling to hold his own because up until now he really hasn't had a challenge with anyone. So that would be cool. But if people are like, oh, Homelander's gonna die this season, I wouldn't think so. I would ideally like at least another season of him.
I said there's going to be a swerve with Starlander. They're going to end up
Oh, they're gonna
actually
end up
being
falling
together.
in
No,
love.
I'm
Yeah.
joking.
Poor Starlight. Like, poor she's been put in an impossible situation in this season. I feel, no offense, like I'm on Huey's side where I think they can't play fair against Vought. And I
Mhm.
think the show's done a good job at showing how connected Vought is, especially with Victoria Newman, who was the one to sell out Edgar. I don't think we have mentioned that. And she decided to make her daughter a super, so she has like a fighting chance against Homelander. Um, so I agree with Huey being like on Butcher's side, where if we're gonna do this, we're gonna have to play as nasty as them. But I don't know. Also at the same time, I'm kind of like, he was basically just like, well, you're just gonna have to like suck it up and just let John like have this weird like relationship with you. And I'm like,
Oh,
Starlight, you
yeah.
don't deserve to take this. Freaking, I love Huey. Dump him. You don't need to do this.
That was yeah. I before we get any further, what's up, articulated heroes? It's been a minute. So what's up,
Hi.
guys? I have a theory of Soldier Boy joining Homelander by the end of the season, just based on some promotional posters showing Soldier Boy on Butcher's side, but also on Homelander's side. Yeah, it's
Oh,
actually
that's
this
an
poster
interesting.
that's our background right now. Obviously, it's cropped because of the dimensions and the ratio, but yeah, he is on both sides. So
Yeah, that would be interesting because I mean we saw at least in the flashback like Soldier Boy was no stand-up dude himself. Obviously he wasn't like a good guy either. So it would be interesting if like by the end of this he's like, why would I want to fight against supers if I'm a super? Like maybe the boy's agenda doesn't line up with his.
God, that would suck having both of them on the same side. But I think it's on episode 4 where it's MM and Butcher and Huey, and he's like, "Let me take it." He's like, "Come on, I'm gonna die. I'm the weakest one out of all of us. Let me at
Like,
least take Compound V."
yeah,
Yeah,
it's like it's real.
yeah. But that's interesting. I think you're gonna see him kind of like turn in his character because you can kind of see the addiction starting to get there,
Yeah,
or starting, I should say. Yeah,
which is also interesting. I mean we saw this in season 2 as well, but we can kind of see like the boys' greatest strength is that they have each other. They're a very tight knit group, and it's kind of interesting that you're again seeing kind of fractures within the group. Like Frenchie and Kamiko have already said they wanted to leave the boys once they kind of get to a good stopping point, because obviously Butcher doesn't treat either of them with any respect. I did like Nina's comment about how Frenchie only follows someone who has like a pretty much a leash on him, and we
yeah.
pretty much see Butcher like treat him as a dog too. So and then obviously MM doesn't condone Butcher's actions with only caring about super means yes, super yeah, Soldier Boy.
So
Don't know why
no, I was
Super
gonna
Boy.
say,
I don't know why. But he doesn't condone that obviously Butcher didn't care that Kamiko was dying and that, and now obviously Huey's taking the V, which Butcher doesn't agree with. So we can see that the group is not in the most healthy way
fractured.
position, yeah, which is kind of a danger because, you want to be strengthened in numbers against someone like Homelander, who would definitely take advantage of you guys kind of falling apart here.
It's gonna be like a super lame joke. I was gonna be like, "Yeah, you see in the first 2 seasons, the 7 being fractured. Now it's the boys."
Now it's a voice, yes. Which we saw
um,
some signs in the first, in season 2 as well. They weren't together either, but it is just interesting how are they going to redeem the group from all these issues they're having with each other.
I was for sure thought Kamiko was gonna be dead because like right before that's when her and Frenchie were like, "Yes, let's go off after this last mission."
Oh,
I was like,
I
"Of
know, it's
course
like,
they're gonna
oh, of
kill her
course,
off."
yeah,
Like,
they're gonna die, but she's such a pivotal role in the comics. I was like, I would be hard pressed if they would have killed her off.
so
And I'm
I'm
guessing
happy
she
that we.
lives because the musical number or whatever in the 5th episode, which I don't like musicals, so I'm gonna suffer through that. But
You don't like musicals?
I don't. Is the whole episode a musical or is it just like a scene?
It's a scene,
See,
and
okay,
to
thank
be honest,
God.
I fast forwarded it. I didn't give a shit
Okay,
about it.
I don't. I don't why I don't know why people sing when they could just say something and it would probably just be better. So I'm kind of dreading that part, but I'll watch episode 5, don't worry.
I can handle musicals in small doses, but like one time, this is like random. I went
Mhm.
took someone on a date to watch The Greatest Showman. I was like, oh, it's probably
Oh,
something on P.T. Barnum, and then they started singing. I'm like, oh my god, no.
that's how I am with any time it's like a musical number. I'm just like, oh no, they're singing.
I genuinely thought it was like some biopic, and I saw it. I'm
Oh.
like, oh my god, they're all dancing and singing. It's a musical. But yeah. So that's our recap of episodes 1 through 4. Was there anything else you wanted to touch up on?
No, no, that's pretty much it. I am really enjoying the season. Like I said, my only two biggest gripes are how they're taking the Butcher Ryan relationship, what they might do with that, and honestly, I would love to see more of Maeve. You know, there's some characters that really have been lacking, especially because like we have. I think she's the only character we haven't seen any of her past. Because we've gotten some flat. Maybe I guess the deep we also really haven't gotten into his childhood or anything.
Yeah,
But like, because Starlight makes a comment to Maeve in like the first season, how she like read her biography and how
yeah,
she really looked up to her, and how like most of it was probably just BS that Vought made up, and Maeve was like, it wasn't, at least some of it. And then like in season 3, she makes the comment when she's like, Homelander needs to die, and Starlight's, but you'll die killing him, and like how could you not respect yourself that much, and how Maeve says she kind of deserves it. It's like we haven't seen any reason why you would deserve it. Like, can we get some of what Maeve's problem is? I
or
mean, because
or
like
like
she,
her storied past with Homelander because they touched up a
yeah,
little bit on the show. I was like, I wonder what happened between these two.
yeah, they did. And I really, it's kind of sucks because there was like a deleted scene between Homelander and Maeve where they were having a conversation in season 1, and you find out the reason they broke up was because he kept cheating on her, and Maeve was just obviously done with that. Probably because it's Homelander, and who would want to date that?
Yeah.
But yeah, we really haven't. The only crime we've seen her commit is also being involved with the flight crash, and more so just not being able to do anything about it.
Well, yeah, because she couldn't fly. Yeah.
Yeah, she can fly. Yeah,
That-
and I did appreciate the whole like, well, can't you just lift the plane? And he's like, I would just punch right through it. I was like, all right, well, some physics, okay.
yeah, I was literally having chills when I watched that for the first time because he was like, I will blast you. Just step back. I'm sorry, articulate. The reason why I said, oh my God, is because what he said, I felt
Oh,
so bad.
musical theater. Ah,
Hold
okay.
on. I like musicals. I
Oh,
went to rock. What was it? I went to Radio City Music Hall to check out a Christmas musical a couple years
uh,
ago. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, articulated hero. I'm a creative writing major and I did theater a lot in high school, so like I respect you to an extent, but poetry and musicals are two of my strongest disliked writing genres.
oh wow.
I'm sorry. It's just always like they always try to show how great they are by making something rhyme or have lyric, and I'm like, but you could accomplish everything you're trying to do with words and just saying it, and it would come out better. Why are you singing it? Why are you making it rhyme?
Articulated heroes. I love musicals. She said,
Articulated like I respect all opinions. That's a
yeah,
polite way of
she said
saying.
all great.
That's a polite way of saying I do, but you're suck still. It's all right. We'll agree to disagree. I respect
So
you.
it's all good. I studied photography, so I don't really have anything that deep. I'm hoping to see what you because I never knew that about the comics, so that's cool to be informed of that. I hope we kind of see more of that turn for Billy Butcher and
Hmm.
also for Huey as well.
Yeah,
I'm also just a sucker for like these superhero clashes, so I hope we do see Soldier Boy and Homelander get it.
yeah. I hope so too.
We're never gonna see Superman versus Captain America, so I guess this is as close as we'll
This is
get.
as close as we can get. We get
Yeah.
the diet versions.
Yeah. But I think the last episode's supposed to air in July. So maybe we'll come back again to this and recap 5 through 8. Right?
Sounds good. Yeah, and give kind of like the final season and maybe future season predictions of what will go on in season um 4. No, yeah, 4 now, and because they
Mhm.
did confirm that they are doing a season 4, so it has been renewed.
Oh, they did? Oh, okay, cool.
Yes, it's been renewed.
Nice. All right, spoilers. No, I'm joking. All right, cool. So yeah, we'll recap that and predictions later on once the last episode airs. Thank you again, Aungielina, for joining me on the LonelyFans podcast. We're back. Thank you, Articulated Heroes. I love musicals, just for the record.
Yes, musicals is the greatest thing that ever happened in this world. And I hope the boys do more episodes like that.
All right, that's a good thing to end up. Thank you again for joining us. And just let people know, where can they find you at, Aungielina?
You can find me, Aungielina, on Instagram. I'll be there.
Word.
If Instagram doesn't delete me like they tried to, but it's all right. I kind of
Are you
deserved
talking
it.
about the timeout they try to put you in?
Yeah, I got sent to the corner.
So remember, if you just want to get shut down immediately, just like everything within 2 minutes.
Yes, they'll
Are
get
you?
you.
Have you tried to like something yet?
Yes, I'm good now. I'm good.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'm not banned, but I got close there.
All right. Well, I'm going to try that later. But thank you for joining me. We'll see you guys again. Take care.